All right. Hey, happy Monday to you, everybody. It is 11 a.m. and that means here on Fox Local, it's time for Forecasting with Friends. Or hey, maybe you're watching this after the fact on YouTube. Great to see you there as well. So today we're going to focus in on a few things. Obviously, the heat here in Houston. It's the big local story. We also do, though, have a lot to talk about in the tropics and also some important information that you need to know still as we pick up the pieces after Hurricane Beryl. It is actually not too late, would you believe, to apply for FEMA assistance following Hurricane Beryl. Yes, it's been 6 weeks since the disaster declaration was issued, but so far the agency has helped 600,000 Texans. There are a lot more, though, who need help, who just haven't put in for the help yet. So if you still need assistance, the cutoff is not until October 10th, but you could find a list of resources and links. A lot of online forms you got to fill out. It's really not all that complicated. You can find the link on our website at fox26houston.com. Now, as you just saw in that video, there's still lots of piles of debris around Houston, still lying around. Waste Management has released some new information. Fox 26 reporter Leslie Dallas-Bohr tells you what you need to know and what some residents are waiting for to be clear.
On July 8th, Hurricane Beryl swept through the city of Houston, leaving behind 4 million cubic yards of storm debris. Solid Waste says that's enough to fill up NRG Stadium. That hurricane came in during the second pass of cleanup after the May 16th derecho storm, according to Solid Waste, where the city had collected 1.7 million cubic yards of debris. Now, Solid Waste says that they've collected 2.1 million cubic yards of storm debris like this, specifically from Hurricane Beryl. That first pass of collection is set to end August 31st. Now, the second pass of collection is set to begin Monday, September 2nd. And they say that if you want debris like this cleaned up, you have to put it out by August 25th. Jeanette Robles says cleanup is something she's been waiting on. And how long have you guys been looking at the trees and limbs in your front yard and even here in your backyard?
It's been a couple weeks now, and I feel like the hurricane was a month ago. It's not exciting to come out and see that the trees are still in the front, that they're still everything is still everywhere, and it looks like the storm just hit last week. So it's been a little tough to see it because we just want to see everything go back to normal, but things can't go back to normal if they're not getting picked up.
When it comes to cleanup, Solid Waste is asking residents to separate bulk waste and demolition debris like this from storm debris like this. They're asking residents to ensure that their tree trunks are 3 feet or less in diameter like this, and also 3 feet or less in length like this. And when it comes to those tree branches, you want to make sure that they are 6 feet or less in length like this and about 10 feet off from your property line.
It would be nice if they took care of it as soon as it happened, but I understand we're all only human. We're all dealing with the issues, but still we have to take care of the community and make sure that everything looks good.
Unlike the derecho storm debris cleanup, which impacted northern Houston, Solid Waste says you don't need to call 311. Instead, they say that contractors will come by and pick up debris like this off of your street from every public right-of-way. Reporting in Northwest Houston, Leslie Dallas-Bohr, Fox 26 News.
All right, can you believe we're still picking up the pieces? And we are watching another tropical system out there as well. Let's go ahead and just take a look at what's happening here locally. The big story, of course, is the heat, and the heat just is not going to let up here really anytime over the next several days. Right now, the sun is beaming on in. You will notice some high clouds out there. Those are cirrocumulus clouds. There also is a bit of haze. We've had some kind of off and on haze across much of the United States over the last few weeks from some western U.S. wildfires, and you may be able to see just a little bit, a tinge of it happening out there right now. So as of 11:04, taking a look at this live, 90 degrees. The latest temperature, we have a wind from the west. That's what that W8 means, a wind from the west at 8 miles per hour, which tends to favor very hot weather. A southeast breeze tends to favor, more of a Gulf influence, maybe a higher dew point and a lower temperature. But right now with a dew point of 73 and a temperature of 90, it calculates to a heat index of 99 we're seeing across the area right now. Now, right now, we're definitely on our way toward a lot of spots hitting 100 today. I mean, it's not not necessarily record-shattering type day, but we are at 91 for Sugar Land, 91 for Katy, and for Tomball, as well as many other locations. Bush Intercontinental's up to 92 already, along with Anahuac. A heat advisory has been extended from the National Weather Service locally through 10 p.m. tonight. Now, we were talking about this in the newsroom meeting. It's like, well, wait, it used to expire at 7 o'clock and then it expired at 8. Now it expires at 10. You know, what does that mean? It just means that the heat has been lasting longer into the evening and the Weather Service wants to make sure you're prepared for it. And so here's just as an example, these are forecast feels like temperatures, and notice that they end up peaking in the afternoon, 109, 110, maybe up to 112, but then they stay up there for a while. Even after 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock tonight, they're still above 100. So that's one of the main reasons why that advisory, is in effect until 10 instead of just expiring earlier. The upper right-hand portion of your screen, you'll see a little bit of green there. We actually have seen some storms working their way in from the north. Started in Arkansas last night, made their way past places like Shreveport, and may bring a splash of rain to around Beaumont, Port Arthur area coming up this afternoon. And some of that may skirt by areas off to our east. The 5-day forecast for feels like temperatures. I mean, can we celebrate this? Maybe. I don't know. About 111 today, about 113 tomorrow, still super high Wednesday, and then with just a little bit more cloud cover, just a little bit better chance for us seeing a couple of showers, it may ease to 108 coming up by Friday. Here's a look at that rain that I just mentioned that was on the map, on the upper right-hand portion of the map that you just saw. Well, it's coming down and bringing a very slight chance, and I mean slight, that we could see a few passing thunderstorms for places like Baytown and maybe Texas City and maybe even over to Galveston. Can't quite rule that out, and it's because high pressure is up there around Dallas, and everything rotates around that in a clockwise manner. So that means Louisiana sort of would be like the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock sort of side of that clock, and the jet stream can still push things down from north to south, and we've seen an eruption of some storms over there that could bring us a slight chance for seeing a thunderstorm later on. All right, we've got a doozy for you today. John Dawson has, we got a little taste of it, pun intended, of his hurricane gear test this morning, but he put together like an extended hurricane gear test uncensored, hopefully, that we're going to be seeing coming up. I think you're going to like it, and we're going to put it to the test, he and I think, later on this week. So stick around for that coming up after the break.
All right, welcome back to Forecasting with Friends. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is normally where I do my hurricane gear test segment. I went ahead and put the Forecasting with Friends graphic in the big monitor though, and we're going to sort of do a Forecasting with Friends version of the hurricane gear test. And I always like to remind people to begin with of the 5 basic things that everybody should have in their hurricane plans, or to be honest, just any emergency preparedness type situation. The first one is food. That's actually what we're going to be talking about today. The second one is water. And then the third one is light. You're going to need a flashlight probably. Or as well, you're going to need some power of some kind. Now, some of us need more power than others when the electricity goes off. For example, if I had medications that needed refrigeration, then my needs are more than someone else who doesn't. But everybody at least needs a way to charge your cell phone if the electricity were to go out. And finally, the fifth thing that I always talk about is a first aid kit. Because I know that for a lot of people, the idea of building a supply of emergency preparedness products, a hurricane kit, if you will, it's a little overwhelming. And maybe financially it's not good to go out for you and buy a really expensive kit. So you try to build one on your own. And I just tell people, look, let's just start with these 5 things: food, water, a light, a way to charge your cell phone, and a first aid kit. If you can get those 5 things under control, and then you can kind of start to prepare for there. So I've got a lot more information about those types of things on my YouTube channel. You can always search for meteorologist John Dawson to find those. But let's get to today. Let's get to what we're talking about. And I've already told you, we're talking about food. And the food that we're talking about today is a little bit unusual in the fact that I'm talking about some American beef. I'm talking about some steak, but it's gone under a freeze-dried process, or a freeze drying process. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole scientific process of what freeze drying is. It's a little over my head, to be perfectly honest, but it's a little bit of a step further than just the dehydration process. It definitely removes the majority of the moisture out of there. And what that does is it allows it to have a shelf-stable life. In other words, you could just leave it on the shelf without any sort of refrigeration for a very extended amount of time, and then you can rehydrate it later, and then you're able to sort of consume that better. So let me just kind of show you what I have. First of all, this is the bag. This is the product. And I will say this, if you go to their website, this is Prepper All Naturals is the name of the company. Prepper All Naturals. If you were to go to their website, you're going to noticing that the packaging is completely different. I got these several months ago, and they've redone their packaging from when they sent me this sample. So these are going to look a lot different, but it's the same company. Again, look for Prepper All Naturals. That's what you're going to look for. And in this case, I have the New York strip. We'll see that right here, New York strip. And for the tasting purposes, I just went with the original steak. Now, again, this is steak that they've cooked, and then they've put it under the freeze drying process, and then they've packaged it up in these containers. Now, officially on their website, they list a 10-year shelf life. But most of the time when I'm familiar with freeze drying, it lasts longer than 10 years. I'm not sure why I saw that on their website. And especially when I looked at what's written here on the packaging, this has a 2049, as in 2049, shelf life listed, which makes more sense because normally you get about a 25-year shelf life when you have something that goes under that freeze drying process. So to me, that makes more sense. I'm not sure why I read it on their website that it's that way, that, you know, again, they have the expiration date here is listed as 2049. So that to me would say basically, officially maybe it's a 10-year, but then with the right conditions and everything just perfect, you can probably make it longer than that. Now, this bowl right here is a little bit of a mess. I'm going to show you this on the close-up. This bowl is what I was showing a minute ago when I was recording the Hurricane Gear Test, and you can see a little bit that there's water in here, right? I'm going to pick some of this up and you can tell. So what I did was I took the product out of the bag and then I poured the water in it. So let me show you here kind of what I'm talking about. What it looks like in the bag is sort of, it's so lightweight, like these pieces of meat, they don't have any of the moisture in them. It's been taken out. And so it's so lightweight, and it almost is like a chip or something, like you get like a, not even like a jerky. Jerky's even heavier than this. It almost feels like it's airy and it's a chip or something because, again, that's gone through that freeze drying process. And then what you do is you take your water and you put it on here. Now, I will say that I've just poured bottled water on here. Theoretically, technically, that will work. Eventually, that will hydrate. But what you're supposed to do is get water that's nearly boiling, and then you pour it on here, and then you just cover it, and then let it set for about 12 minutes is what I did, and then it's hydrated, or it's reconstituted again, and you can then consume it because it's had that back in there. So a couple different warnings to keep in mind if you were to pursue a freeze-dried food like this. First of all, it's not edible right out of the package. So this that I just poured out here, can't really eat this. It's not consumable. It's not like it's a jerky or even just dehydrated plant or food of some kind. You have to have safe drinking water available to reconstitute this. You've got to have that available for you. And in the best case scenario, you need to be able to boil that water or bring it to hot, to where it's hot. So that's a little bit of something that a lot of emergency foods wouldn't require, is that you have water and that you can heat the water. But in this case, that's one. And I think it's one of those factors that kind of plays on the fact that this is going to have a 10 or 25 year shelf life. You're going to be able to have those extra precautions or extra products that are kind of going to be around for that a little bit. So I'll also say this about the steak here. This This is good. I'm just going to jump to it. This tastes pretty good. I'm not gonna lie to you. And once it's rehydrated like this, it feels like it's supposed to. It's got like, you know how like a piece of meat, it kind of feels a little greasy a little bit, you know, and it smells like it's supposed to. It feels like I'm really amazed at how it goes from this to this. And it tastes like steak, right? That's the main thing we're concerned with, is we want something that tastes like what it's supposed to. It tastes like steak. Now, let's make sure we remember there's different levels of steak, right? This is going to be more of a Denny's or an IHOP or something along those lines of steak. It's not going to be like you've gone to your favorite retired NFL player who has opened up a steakhouse and has expensive steaks. That's not what we're dealing with here. This is a little bit of a different steak, and here I am munching on it without any kind of a sauce or anything on it. It is recommended that you would mix this into a recipe. So it's very edible, and like I said, it tastes like steak. It's good, eating it right now. But they would recommend that this is mixed into some sort of a recipe, and it is an important protein. So let's talk about some numbers. Let's talk about some facts right here. This package contains, or will contain, once you rehydrate it, this package will contain 48 ounces of meat once you rehydrate it. And they recommend a 4-ounce serving, which basically means that this package has 12 servings. And each of those servings are going to have 24 grams of protein. Now that's quite a bit of protein. That's a good amount of protein. But do remember that this is just protein. You're not getting, any sort of fruits and vegetables, starches, or carbohydrate, anything like that. So it's pretty much just protein. And so when you factor that into your meal planning, you're going to want some other things besides just a bag of steak to kind of go with it. Now let me get to one of the biggest cons, if you want to do pros and cons, is this is expensive. This is not something that all of us are going to be able to afford. This bag that I'm holding, it costs between $109 and $159, depending on what steak you get, per bag. So this bag of original steak that I've got opened up here costs $109. That's for 12 4-ounce servings of steak. Again, you're looking at a 25-year shelf life probably. So that's an investment that is going to last for a while, but still that is an expensive investment. There are other dehydrated foods and freeze-dried foods that will not have the same cost that this does. So again, the company's name is Prepper All Naturals. They have several different kinds of steak. It's all American beef that they're freeze drying. And I've got the original steak out here that I was trying. Remember, you pour it out, you hydrate it, and then you're left with this steak. And like I said, it's good. It tastes like steak. But just like a real piece of steak, occasionally you get one that's maybe a little more chewy than others, or has a little bit. I mean, it makes me assured that this is in fact something that was real and not something that was kind of made up a little bit, or I should be cautious about. And definitely once you open it, once you've hydrated it, it's no longer shelf stable, so you have to refrigerate this. So I'm going to do my best to eat most of this here in a minute. The one other thing I will note is in the directions, they do say you can open the pouch and then reseal it. It's got the little seal, airtight seal on it here. But that would definitely cut it to only about a 5-year shelf life. So even after you open it, you can still have a lot of time before it has to be consumed. So it's not like you have to eat it immediately or within 30 days even, or several hours. You can, again, they list up to 5 years possibly with that shelf life. All right, so I think we've kind of got it all done here. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I rated this now and here. I'm going to have you look that up. You can go to fox26houston.com. You go to the bottom of the weather page. All my hurricane gear tests are waiting for you. Or if you go to YouTube, that's a little bit better organized. If you go to YouTube and just search Meteorologist John Dawson, you'll find my channel, and all of the hurricane gear tests will be there as well. So you'll be able to look up what I gave them. You know, I always give them a rating on my Hurricane Kit priority scale, a 1 through 5. Remember, that's how important is it. I've already, I think, made it very clear that this is a good product. It's expensive, but it tastes good. But how important is it that you make this investment to put this into your hurricane kits, as opposed to some other options that are out there and things like that, as far as that need for food? That's what the Hurricane Kit Priority Scale is all about, and that rating of a Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you'll have to wait and look that one up yourself. Again, go to fox26houston.com on the weather page. If you're watching on Fox Local, you can also look on the weather tab or the weather shelf, the page there, and there are all the hurricane gear tests that are listed. All right, that's going to do it for this part of Forecasting with Friends. As always, we'll be right back after this break with more.
Every time I see one of JD's gear tests, a lot of times I'll say that's the best one I've ever seen. Well, I love this format of being able to really hear like I wish we had smelly vision, right? Here's the thing, and you should go to his YouTube page and to our website to see what he gave this as far as his category rating of 1 to 5. It is interesting though, it is a little bit expensive, but you buy this once and you're going to have that protein. Look, there's nothing wrong with steak at Denny's. There's nothing wrong with steak at Denny's if it's in an emergency and you just need that something warm and something hearty to eat. It might be worth the investment for you. But see, that's why we count on JD for our disaster preps, because you're going to get the honest truth and be able to make a good decision. And I think it's a pretty cool product. It's a really good product. So, all right, we will be back. I'm going to show you a little bit about what's happening in the tropics after this. Talk a little bit about tropics. I'm going to go into a lot more detail on this on Mondays with Mike, which comes up after the noon show today. So here on Fox Local at 12:30, kind of go in depth as to what all of this means. But I wanted to show you, if you were wondering, where are all the hurricanes? Yeah, we did have a little bit of a flurry with Beryl, obviously, but I thought the whole Atlantic Ocean would be filled with hurricanes given the way things were trending this year. Well, here's the thing. We are just now, this is where we are on the graph of where we typically see hurricanes, and we are not even near the peak of hurricane season for today. It gets much more active heading into the end of August, more active beginning of September, and then it's that second week of September when the activity really gets ramped up. Right now, the only storm out there is Ernesto, so we're not really worried about that one, and across the rest of the Gulf and the Caribbean, everything is fine. We'll have the latest on the heat coming up on Fox 26 News at noon with your 7-day outlook, and then stay tuned for Mondays with Mike right after the news.